All right, you guys. My name is Nick Parsons. I'm from the Insiders Room. I am on the Picks and Parlays, and this is Picks and Parlays live cap. Allie Burns cannot be here today. She will be back with me on Friday, and we're going to have on Dan Kaiser on that Friday show. It's Football Fridays. We're going to be looking at college football, but today is all about the NFL, and we're going to bring on one of our NFL experts. You know him, Craig Trapp. How's it going, Craig?
Pretty good. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, we waited all this time to get football here, and now before you know it, we're almost halfway through this NFL season, NFL Week 7. I mean, it's just absolutely a blink of an eye, and before you know it, we'll be at the Super Bowl.
I know it is. You're right. It's just been going by so fast, and there's just been so much action going on, and it's just lately in the last few days, it feels like it's all slowing down. All the sports world, etc. So maybe that's going to allow us to focus a little bit more on the NFL, more on college football moving forward. Of course, we'll reserve that Friday show to talk more about the college football, but the Big Ten is starting this week, and so there is lots of things to be excited for sure.
Mountain West too, right? Mountain West this week.
Yeah, and the Mountain West this week, exactly.
And then next week we got the the MAC, and then the week after we have the Pac-12. So I mean. And then we'll have every conference for about a month. And then, the good thing about these other conferences starting later, guess what? We're going to have football later in the year.
Yes. No, it's been strange. And so, we'll take it. Very thankful for football to be here and for some of these other smaller colleges, et cetera, to be starting up. But for this weekend, we're looking at the NFL. And so we're not going to look at that Thursday game. I don't think. Maybe we will if we have some time at the end of the show. But we're looking at some of this Sunday card. We can see that there's a bunch of, high totals. There's lots of different storylines and different things. But we're going to start at Buffalo, at New York. Of course, Buffalo's coming off a loss. It's now 4-2. It's still leading that division. The Jets are 0-6 straight up. They're 0-6 against the spread. They're one of the only of the two teams still left that are 0-6 against the spread. So, Craig, how do you see this one playing out?
Well, sometimes playing the ugly teams in the NFL is an easy way to make money. Sometimes the worst teams, as far as the overall record, direct record, is they're some of the best against the spread. And we see that in other sports as well. But that's not the case for the Jets. I mean, they're not just losing. They're getting trounced. I mean, the Dolphins aren't world beaters. And the Dolphins did whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted last week. And it's hard to back a Jets team. Even with the line movement already, even if you said this line goes to 17, do you feel comfortable about a Jets offense that has basically no weapons at this point?
Good point. No, I don't. And especially with the Bills coming off that loss, they're going to be just, wanting to take out their frustrations on somebody here. I don't feel confident at all. And so what is this line at currently?
13.5. It opened at 10 at 13.5. Total opened at 48, dropped the opposite way, 45. And you'd have to think the under. This is one of them I think I would parlay the Bills and the under, because if the Bills win, I think they'd absolutely trounce them. And, it's kind of like last week when the Jets don't score much. And if you think the Jets cover, you have to think the Jets are going to score some points. And so I would take the Jets and the over. So for me, I would be on the Bills and the under on this one, just because I think the Bills defense has something to prove. They were not great last week. They gave up. The Chiefs didn't even want to run or didn't even want to pass the ball, and they still tore them up.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And so at quarterback, they're gonna stick with Flacco.
They haven't officially announced it, but I don't think you can go back at this point. How do you go backwards? It's not like they were any better. It doesn't really matter who's the quarterback. I guess the only thing is if you say you're going to go back at quarterback and Flacco doesn't start this week, you're trying to maybe draft, for the offseason where you could trade him and think maybe if he has a bounce back middle and second half of the season that you could trade him and get more in the. But to me, I think you have to stay with Flacco here and just maybe you try to trade him. The trade deadline is the 3rd or the 6th, so you have a few weeks left. So. I think the Jets are probably going to be trading anybody and everybody that makes any money that has any value, because this team is definitely in rebuild, full-fledged rebuild mode now.
I mean, yeah, they could absolutely just tank for Trevor at this point, and yeah, I mean, they could keep Darnold on the shelf, keep him healthy, and use him to trade at this point, and not risk his health, even and not worry about that bounce back season. But yeah, no, I don't feel confident at all with the Jets here, and even as you said, even if that line went to 17, I'm not too sure. Yeah, the Jets they're just 1-4 against the spread their last five at home. The road team's 4-1 against the spread the last five in this series. So yeah, those are some strong.
How many points? How many points would you have to have before you would take the Jets?
Yeah, maybe 21 or somewhere around 17 and a half. Maybe that would be
I would think if you got over the key number 17, definitely a 21. Right. I would say because I could see them losing 24-10. Type,
right.
Where like I said, I'd like the under in the Bills at this number, but at 13 and a half, it's not enough. At 14 is not enough. At 17, I would definitely think about it. At 17 and a half, then you're off that other, the second, the next key number after 14. So to me, I would maybe bet 17. At 21, I definitely would take them though. But I don't think you're not getting that kind of number here.
Well, listen, Josh Allen, he's been great overall this year. The Buffalo Bills, they've lost the 2 straight games, but those losses have come to teams with a combined 10-1 record.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a good team. This is a good team that was going to not, go 16-0. And no, this is a great bounce back situation for it.
Well, so, the Bills' problem though, Nick, weren't you like losing the Chiefs? That's the Super Bowl champs. But when you had Tennessee that didn't get to practice in their facility, but like one day in 2 weeks, that's the problem with me. So that was the loss, and it wasn't just everybody has marched up and down the field against the Titans.
Right?
They didn't do that. Their offense was kind of non-existent, and that was the disappointing game. I can expect the Chiefs; they just kept them off the field by running the ball. But to me, the loss to the Titans on the road was definitely a little shake your head, and you think maybe Josh Allen isn't quite as good as what everybody thought. Because the first few weeks, I mean, they played nobody.
Yes. No, absolutely. All good points. Was there anything else on that game that you thought stood out to you on the Bills and Jets?
No. If you're watching this game, I'm guessing you're a Bills or a Jets fan because there's nobody out there that wants to watch this game. That's for sure.
Right, but as you said, that sometimes those are the games. Those are the ones where the odds makers are not looking as closely. Those are the opportunities for you to make some money on some garbage games and on some garbage lines. And so, yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah, not the game, not the garbage team I would be looking to play, because to me, I just think if you look at this game, it's not like the Jets have any, it's not like they're good on defense, good on special teams. They got a good coach. There's nothing to a redeeming quality on this team.
Right. Well, we have a few people in chat here in YouTube agreeing with us. Rycape says the Jets are just terrible. And Elliot, he's saying, let's go Bills. Bills by 20, he thinks. So, yeah, we have some other people in our chat agreeing with us here.
Yeah. I don't know how you don't.
So, where would you like to go next? What do you think? We have this is a great card. There's great divisional matchups. And
hey, let's go from the worst game to the best game. Steelers, Titans, 2 undefeated teams. I mean, like you can't get any better than this game this week, and not just to maybe find out who moves to 6-0, but also this could matter later in the season. Who gets home field advantage later in the season, and both teams tough places to play normally, and both Pittsburgh and Tennessee I've heard would like to have some more fans in the stands after. Later in the season. So that might, by then, we might see that there'll be 20,000 people, say, in Pittsburgh or Tennessee. So that would really matter when it comes to home field advantage later in the year.
That's a really good point. I mean, this pits 2 strengths. The Titans, they have, of course, Derrick Henry, and their run game is just off the charts. But then right now, the Steelers have the league's second-best rushing defense. They're only allowing 3.3 yards per game. So as you said, this is going to be a great matchup here. How do you see this one? Do you think this will be a high-scoring affair or a lower-scoring contest?
Pittsburgh is so good on defense. I mean, the Browns have a very good running game, and yes, they were missing one of their 2 good running backs, but It would be hard for me to see that this is high scoring because one, I just don't think Pittsburgh wants to play like that, and
Right.
to get high scoring, I think Tennessee would have to run the ball, and I just don't see that happening. I think there's going to be a lot more punting in this game than we've probably seen in many games this year. I think this is definitely a lower scoring affair, and it's going to come down to probably some field goals late. I just think it's a really, really close game, and I think Pittsburgh is for real. Outside of Kansas City, but even Kansas City, we've seen with some issues this year. I'd say Pittsburgh in the AFC has as much potential to win it all as anybody. And in Tennessee, I don't want to discount Tennessee, but they've allowed a lot of points this year against some bad teams too.
Right. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, he looks fantastic. There's been other people coming out. Chase Claypool. I think that the Pittsburgh run game is probably underrated as well. And so that also correlates into your line of thinking there as far as this being a lower scoring game. And so I would definitely agree with you as well on that.
I was hoping they were going to sign Bell, because that would have been pretty funny if
Right.
he set out a year, goes to the Jets, disaster, and then goes back home to Pittsburgh. That would have been interesting. And but Pittsburgh has a nice little staple of young running backs there, so I could have seen why they didn't. But to me, it's Claypool was the big. I knew he would be decent, but I didn't think he would have the week in, week out success that he's had. And
Wow.
you give Ben Roethlisberger weapons. We've seen when he had a Brown there. I mean, they were really good on offense, and of course Bell was the running back. I mean, they were loaded.
Right.
It's too bad they couldn't have kept those three together, because I think if you had those two stars there, I think this is the team to beat, even better than Kansas City, because Kansas City, their defense is still a question. It's not a question in Pittsburgh.
No, you're totally right. And so Rye KP is agreeing. He thinks Pittsburgh's defense should slow down Tannehill. Pittsburgh he believes is the most complete team in the NFL right now. But Elliott he's disagreeing with us on the total. He likes the over in that one.
Yeah, well, then he said he likes Dallas to win the chip. So let's
right. Okay, yes, I see that now. Okay, well, there we go.
But I think if you look at Pittsburgh, it's like they can beat you either way. They have a great offense, and they can air it out. They can run the ball. They can win with their defense. They have good kicking game. Mike Tomlin, even though he's been under fire since he kind of let the Brown and Bell situations kind of get out of hand there, which I just don't. You can't control players anymore, so I don't really hold that against him. But he's really good coach. So I mean,
he is.
Pittsburgh is. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, other than Ben Roethlisberger getting old, you have to think it's not just a 1-year window for Pittsburgh. And now we know these quarterbacks play till I mean, they got the fountain of youth on these guys now. They can play to the mid-40s, it seems like.
It's amazing. No, and Roethlisberger has been a big part of this. That was the biggest question mark for that team, for this team coming in, for sure. And he's he's exceeded expectations for sure. He has 11 touchdowns, just the one interception through 5 games. So yeah, he's just been fantastic.
Well, I think if you like this game though, if you like defense, you like hard-hitting football, you like to run the ball, this is going to be your game. Because I think Pittsburgh would like to help their defense and to run the ball and to keep it away, because Derrick Henry is one of those guys that can wear it. I mean, that guy's a monster. And then he's like we used to have those guys in the late 80s, early 90s, the fullbacks, the Christian Okoyes and company, that they were like fullback running backs. Ickey Woods here in Cincinnati. But those guys weren't guys that would run away from you. You let Henry get out in the open, you're not catching him. We saw that in the 92-yard run he had last week. So it's a guy that can really wear your defense down. So to keep that Pittsburgh defense fresh, I think they run the ball a lot. And that's why I think if I'm playing this game, I'm definitely playing the under. And I'm guessing if I play the game, I would play Pittsburgh, because I think they're slightly the better team, even though they're on the road. I think Pittsburgh should actually be. I think it should be Pittsburgh -1 instead of Tennessee -1, in my opinion.
Okay, and so just a reminder, you guys, on Saturday, Ali and Kurt Alexander will have Total Chaos, and so they'll have their opinion on this particular game as well, their over or under pick on that. After the first 2 weeks, they had done extremely well with their consensus picks, and so I don't know what that is yet, and so I'm looking forward to that. So just a reminder, that's at 1 Eastern on Saturday, and of course, we'll also have the Friday live cap show that comes at 6 Eastern, and Ali will be back for that show, and we'll also be joined by Dan, the Professor Kaiser, and he's been great on those Friday shows because he really knows his college football, and he is a Big Ten specialist as well. He is a Michigan State alum, so
this is a dangerous week. So you better listen up, because with the Big Ten adding in this year and guys opting out to play, and usually we see these teams all have kind of like a warm-up game. Guess what? No warm-up game. We start in league action. So make sure you listen in on Friday to Dan and company.
For sure. No, that'll be great. I can't wait to hear his opinion. He's definitely not a homer. He bets against his team all the time.
Well, they got a lot of changes, of course. New coach, Michigan State, and I'm interested to see the Big Ten this year. Obviously Ohio State is favored, and for just cause, Justin Fields is a stud, but we've seen already in these bigger in the SEC, even remember the Big 12 has started out with 3 upsets to Sun Belt teams, and then Oklahoma loses again. I mean, the big bad boys of years past, now with the lack of practice and guys opting out for COVID and all that stuff, it's definitely making it kind of balances the playing field a little bit.
I'm going to bring up that point when I talk to Dan on Friday and see what he thinks, if there could be some big upsets coming up in the Big Ten here as well. But Craig, we're going to focus on a couple of more NFL games here before we end off here. So we talked about the worst game on the board. We've talked about the best game on the board. Where do you think we should go next?
Well, I think the next one, the Panthers Saints, is one of those games that years past, this would have been one of the best teams. When Cam Newton was there, I mean, this was probably a premier matchup every time they faced off, and Drew Brees and Cam Newton. Obviously, Teddy Bridgewater coming in there has left. But the storyline is, let's remember, Teddy Bridgewater last year was in New Orleans and did really well when Drew Brees went down with injury. So
that's right.
He's coming back to his New Orleans, and where I think he gained his confidence back. And I think you're seeing that in Carolina. Last week, it was a tough loss to the Bears. So I think this is a really good matchup, kind of an under-the-radar matchup. And the line is a little surprising, in this one.
You're right.
That Saints getting that 7.5 in a total of 51. I was surprised. The line opened to 7, and now it's bet up to 7.5. I kind of think maybe it'll get bet back to the 7 number. But I think that tells you how now with Michael Thomas look like back in the fold for New Orleans, what they really expect New Orleans offense to get back on track after the bye week.
Right. So, they are coming off their bye. They defeated the Chargers 30-27 in overtime in their previous game. So, this is a Saints team that has not looked completely like itself in years past. Definitely at times it appears as if Breeze is struggling to hit some of his receivers. They held on for the win in Detroit. They beat the Chargers in overtime as well. So now Teddy Bridgewater comes back to town. The Carolina Panthers are playing their best football of the year. They've reeled off 3 straight wins, and they're getting it done.
No, they lost to the Bears last week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
2 of 3.
Right. Okay.
2 of 3. But the Bears, 5-1. Who would have thought?
Right. No, exactly. No, I did not anticipate that as well. Okay. So, they come off the upset loss against the Bears last week.
That was, and I really like the Carolina now. But I think we're starting to see Christian McCaffrey is one of those, like, you can win a week or two without your best player, which he's their best player. It's after a couple weeks, people the tape gets out. What you're going to do? And there's only so much you can do. You can't add in another great running back midseason. So I think it's a problem. I think it's a real problem on the road. Luckily, they face a Mercedes Dome with 0 fans. And the news there in New Orleans, of course, is that they were thinking about going to play at LSU just so they could have more fans. And but that's maybe on the shelf, and maybe it sounds like, but still, no fans. That's a huge advantage for Carolina. But I still think you take. There's a reason why it's 7.5. It's been bet pretty heavily from what I hear, and moved this to 7.5. I like New Orleans here, and
I like the Saints. Okay.
Yeah, I off the bye. I think that's a real big event. I mean, you give me a great coach. With Sean Payton is a great coach, a great quarterback, and then and
it was a timely bye week for the Saints.
Because they got lucky. They got lucky to beat the Chargers. Remember, the Chargers had missed a field goal. Otherwise, they lose that game probably.
Right.
So, to me, I think you take the Saints. They fixed some things. They got Michael Thomas back, which they're just a different offense when you get the best receiver in football back. And I think that defense will remember enough of what they saw in Teddy Bridgewater last year in practice to be able to win and cover in this one. But it's not going to be one of my favorite plays because I hate that hook. I hate that
of
hook.
course. No doubt.
Also, I think the total here, I think you got to take the over. I mean, the Saints defense has given up a fair amount of points this year. And so to win, I think it'll be kind of a shootout. To win and cover, I think it'll be a shootout. So another one I maybe would parlay the over in the Saints. If you were going to play Carolina, I would play the under in Carolina because I think for them to win, that means they have to play a little slower and keep Drew Brees and company off the field.
Right. That makes sense. Coming off the loss, it sort of sets up as a natural letdown spot after the 3 straight wins. The Panthers are averaging 23 points. They're allowing 23.5. But yeah, as you say, that bye week came at a really timely point there for Brees, who should get his win back. He has a couple more weapons open. Alvin Kamara has been, a bright spot on that offense. And so now here's an opportunity for this Saints defense as well to sort of regroup and to improve its numbers against really an offense that I wouldn't classify as explosive here in Carolina. And Teddy Bridgewater, he's more of a game manager. They just don't want him to make any mistakes. This is an offense that wants to run. This is a defense, that wants to sort of control the game as well. So
this is a teaser spot for me too. If I was at a sports book, I would definitely have a teaser on this one. I would have tease this down under the key number and then tease the total down as well. I would take New Orleans, in a teaser with the over as well, because I think I think it's a pretty easy spot. If I would wait on this one, I don't see this going to 8 because it really doesn't really help it doesn't draw money, but I think it could be maybe bet down with some sharp money late. So I would definitely wait if I was going to bet this game as far as the 7.5.
Right. Well, divisional contests are always the most important, and they almost always mean the most to the home side there. So Craig is suggesting waiting a little bit closer to kickoff, but he's leaning towards the Saints heavily in that one. So Craig, maybe we can look at one more game here before we leave, and then we'll remind everyone about the shows again and everything.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, if you haven't done so, make sure you give us a like, share, comment, tell us what you think. But the last game, Lions and Falcons, finally we get a team in the Falcons. They fire the coach. Finally, they fired the coach, Dan Quinn. And now they finally get their first win. 1-5 on the year, but 2-4 against the spread. And guess what? Falcons are favored. And not only favored, the line opened at 1. Now it's 2.5. Minus 2.5 for the Falcons with a total of 55.5. So interesting that a team with one win and had some terrible losses on the year have line movement in their favor.
I agree. I like Detroit in this one personally. I think that Detroit, even in their defeats, it's been pretty good. I think that this is a bad matchup for Atlanta, which has struggled against passing quarterbacks. But how do you see this one playing out? Do you like Atlanta to build off its big win there?
Heck, I like Detroit when it was 1. So you give me 2.5, I would definitely take Detroit. I'd probably play Detroit money line, though, to be very honest, because it seems like when Detroit plays well, they win games. It's not just covering. So to me, I wouldn't even mess with the spread. I would just take them money line. He probably can get it plus 110, plus 114, something like that. Matt Stafford's, he's got to do it now. Probably going to see a coaching change if they don't make the playoffs this year. I'm guessing Matt Patricia is going to be fired because he really, since his first year, really hasn't been able to do much. And you can't keep saying that he's got to bring in more talent. It's like you've had your chance. You haven't developed the talent. And to me, I think the Lions are the play here. They're the better team. And Atlanta, I mean, everything I hear about Atlanta is that they, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones might be even on the trading block.
I know, exactly.
Not now. In the offseason. So to me, I don't know what obviously every professional wants to win. So it's not like I don't know what they have to play for, but what do they have to play for? They're in a division that's very good. I mean,
they got off the schneid there against Minnesota, a suspect, obviously Vikings team that has looked looked completely out of sorts since the beginning of the year. I'm not convinced about the Falcons just in one game that suddenly everything has changed. But just against passing quarterbacks, they allowed 38 points to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in week 1. They allowed 40 points to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in week 2. And then they allowed 30 points in back-to-back losses to the Packers and Bears. So other than Chicago, Those passing offenses with those quarterbacks where it's centered around that, this Falcons secondary has just been a disaster.
Imagine though, because remember they were up double digits at Dallas. They were up next week up double digits at home against Chicago before they went to benched Trubisky and went to Foles. If they win those games, they probably would have covered both of those games. So now we see a team instead of 1-5, they're 3-3. Probably don't fire Dan Quinn. Would be 4-2 against the spread. So that's the positive. If you're an Atlanta backer or you want to bet this game, that's the positive.
Right.
But you have to say, what kind of bad defense do you have that you have a double-digit lead back-to-back weeks and it wasn't close. Chicago marched up and down the field, and they're an offense that doesn't even like to do that. So to me, I just don't think you fix the defensive issues. And, I'm not blaming it's not just always on the head coach. Let's be honest. Dan Quinn didn't do it by himself. They've had issues with GM. You have to go all the way up to ownership since they lost that Super Bowl when they were up big at halftime. So everybody shares their company, but Matt Ryan is a really good quarterback.
He is. And
I would just like him to maybe get another chance somewhere else, because imagine, I was just telling Scott Rickenback today, we were talking, I said, you imagine if Matt Ryan, because at this year, if available, which sounds like he might be, depending on how the year goes, he could go to, say, New England, because New England, Cam Newton's going to be a free agent this year. They're either going to have to long-term contract, franchise him, or they try to, find their next quarterback. Imagine he played 6 more years. It would be Tom Brady part 2, because he's a thinking man's guy. He's not super mobile, but he makes all the right decisions.
Very similar.
I would love for him to get out of Atlanta and have a good situation as far as coaching, stable, and ownership group. I think he could put up ridiculous numbers.
Well, Detroit's run game last week as well, it was a difference maker. It posted a season best 180 yards, and DeAndre Swift, he had 116 of those, and he had 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, Detroit's offense is not only getting it done through the air, it's also now getting it done on the ground. So, yeah, I think we're in complete agreement there that we both like Detroit, even on the money line there, getting some plus money.
When you look at this total, though, Nick, do you think – it's 55.5, which in the NFL, that's a ridiculously high total.
It is.
How do you have any confidence on the under, though, when you have an Atlanta team that gives up – it seems like 30 every week.
They do. Well, they are allowing 30.6 points per game
that's crazy.
So far this year. And Detroit gives up 28.6. So if you add those two numbers together, that's 59.2 right there. That exceeds the posted total right there.
Which always makes me worried.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's such an obvious, when you think like last week, Tampa Bay and Green Bay, a lot of, it was a high total. A lot of people liked the over, and it looked like for sure it was going to go over half, and then nothing.
Even at the third quarter.
Yeah. So to me, these are the type of totals I worry about, because it just looks so easy, because you just add, like you said, what your defenses have allowed, and you get this total. So to me, when I get these super high totals, unless it's Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football, because in the high profile games, it seems like we've seen some of the, remember the Rams Chiefs game last year where it was 62 or something, and it went almost over at half.
Yeah.
Those high profile games don't worry me as much, but on a game like this, it does worry me. I would stay away from the total here. I would definitely play the Lions on the money line, and this Lions team's sneaky good against the number.
I think so.
And they're sneaky. They could sneak into the playoff picture late this year, I think. They just got to hang around about 500, and then they'd be say 7-7, and then you win your last 2 games, and all of a sudden you have a shot at the last spot in the playoffs in NFC.
I agree with you, Matt Patricia. His as you said, his coaching career sort of is on the line. It feels like here, but no, he seems to be getting the most out of his team right now. We're in complete agreement about that one, Craig. So you guys, was there anything else you wanted to talk about that game?
No. Make sure, though, if you haven't done so, check our other videos out, of course, here at Picks and Parlays. In all of our videos, this week's promo code, we didn't mention it yet, 20% off promo code is Big Ten, so BIGTEN, no spaces, and save 20% on Nick's Insider's Room, my picks, any of the other 24 experts over at Picks and Parlays, and we even have, I think Kurt Alexander has a special up this week, 3-day pass for like $49, because Kurt, of course,
been doing great.
He's our newest capper, And so we want everybody to give an opportunity to check out Kurt and find out why, not just the totals that he's good at, which he's been great, like Nick said, in his Total Chaos stuff.
Yes, absolutely. No, and I know that he, even just last week, he had gone 6-0 over the weekend. And so, no, I'm looking forward to talking to Kurt and picking his brain again on Saturday morning. It's Saturday morning my time, but it's 1 Eastern on Saturday. And then, of course, on Friday, Allie Burns will be back hosting this show along with myself, and we're going to be joined by Dan, and we're going to be talking college football. We're going to be looking at the Big Ten. So, Craig, thanks a lot for sitting in again on Live Cap this Wednesday.
No problem. It's good seeing you, everybody. And don't forget, give us a thumbs up.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week.